Well, today I'm going to start building the tall tool cabinet to go next to my lumber rack that I redid. First thing I want to do is I want to cut down some sheet goods. I'm going to use my track saw to do that. I've got my track laid out on a piece of plywood here. I need to make one straight true edge. Well, I've got one known true edge. I can take my parallel guides, measure out for the sides themselves, cut one, move the track over, and cut the other. Well, after I've got these sides cut to width, I want to cut them to length. First thing I want to do is I want to get one square edge on here before I measure. I've got a pair of claws dogs in here. I'm just going to move this up. Got a little overhang. These panels are going to be 82 inches long. So this is 84 inches. So all I need to do is just cut about an inch off of there. Do is flip the piece over, measure my 82 inches, and cut the other side. For measuring out 82 inches, all I need to do is bring my track down, move the board until I know that I'm splitting my line, and make the cut. I'll just repeat that process for the other side. My fence set up on my multifunction table, if you could call it that. I've got a stop set for 23 1/4. What I need to do is I need to make 5 pieces that size. I should mention I of course ripped these to width using the same method I showed before. Again, all I got to do is slide it up against the stop. Lower the track, make the cut. The nice thing about this system is that I can just cut a piece, move it down, lower it. Again, this gives me really nice repeatability. The nice thing about this system is typically, when I cut down sheet goods before, I'd have to rough cut them, deal with large sheets, lay everything out on the sheet, cut it out to rough dimensions because you get a really crappy cut with the circular saw, and then do final cuts. So I was cutting every piece twice and doing a lot of layout. With this, I get perfect edges, virtually no dust, and I can cut them down to the final dimensions on the first cut, which saves me a lot of time. The whole cabinet is going to be held together with pocket screws, but I want to put some biscuits in there, just a couple at each point to help with alignment, because those pocket screws can be difficult sometimes. So I'm just going to use my biscuit joiner here. Now that I've got all the biscuits cut to help with alignment, I'm going to cut the pocket holes now. I've got my pocket hole jig put in here, and I'm just going to put 3 on each side. That'll be plenty enough. Now my dust collector. I'm getting ready to start putting this cabinet together. Again, I'm going to use biscuits. Most of the strength of this comes from the pocket hole, so I don't need to put a lot of glue. And I'm gluing up on my table saw here. I don't want to get any glue on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the biscuits in there. I'm going to spread some glue on the middle divider here. Just spread it out real quick. Not too much. And this is going to go on here like that. The reason I'm doing it on my table saw is because this is a known flat surface and I know I'll get my face tight that way. So after I've got that in there, clamp it in, I'll take a couple pocket screws and drive them home. And that's it. Just got to do the top and the bottom and put the other side on. Well, I've got the cabinet all together. I did make a mistake, and that was not drilling the holes for the shelf pins before I put it together. I've got my shelf pin template down here. It's not a big deal. All I did was butt it up against the top. I aligned it to the front using these pins, clamped it down, and now I've got those pins taken out. I really don't need them anymore. I've got my router set up with a 1/4 inch upcut spiral bit hooked up to my dust collector, 3/8 inch collar. I'm just going to go down the row here and plunge this in and create those shelf pins. I've got the bit set at 3/8 of an inch, so you should be good to go. Get started, put on my hearing protection, and we're good. Now I've got the first set of holes drilled, I can remove the clamp. I'll put my pins back in here to realign it. Face. And don't need to go all the way down again. I'll put this in here. To align that a little further. Just clamp it all down again and continue the operation. Well, if that side's done, all I have to do is go down, do the bottom half, but flip it around, and then do the other side. I love some Douglas fir, and I'm going to be using that for the frames of the doors and the frame for the cabinet. First thing I need to do is to cut some pieces for the 3 cross members, or the 3 rails for the face frame, the bottom, the middle shelf, and the top. Those are 1.5 inches thick, or 1.5 inches wide, 3/4 of an inch thick. I've got some nice straight grain wood here, which came out really nice. And I need to cut those up to 21 1/16. I want to make it a little bit larger than the cabinet itself, because when I put it on there, it'll be a little bit proud on the side, and then I'll flush trim it with the router. So the first thing I need to do is square up one end, flip this piece over, put my stop down, and then cut 3 pieces, 21 1/16. I'm going to assemble the face frame with pocket hole screws. Very good application for this. All I got to do is just line it up. Clamp it to my table. Make sure it's flush on the end. Move it a little bit. And just drive a couple screws in. Well, here's the cabinet, here's the face frame I did last night. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread glue all over the face of this. put the face frame on, clamp it, put a couple brads to hold it in place, and I put some pocket screws in the least conspicuous places I could. Again, this is shop furniture. I'm not really worried about hiding it. There's going to be 6 of them. It's going to be more than strong enough to hold this in place. Got the face frame mounted on the cabinet. I've laid it on the floor. With every layer of wood, this thing gets a little bit heavier and a little bit more heavy. And every day that goes by, I get a little older and older, so it makes sense. Plus, it's a lower work surface. If I put this up here, it's just going to be too high. I've also decided to use one of my heavier duty routers on this, and the main reason I'm going with the big router instead of the small trim router is it's heavier. I think I get more control. I feel I get more control on something like this where it's only 1.5 inches wide. The weight helps hold it down. So I've got the flush trim bit mounted in my router. I've got the dust collection hooked up to it, and this should be a pretty straightforward operation. Now that I've routed the face frame flush with the cabinet sides, I just want to go over the top with the face with a sander and go over the sides with the sander just to get them nice and true, and also level any inconsistencies that there may be in these joints. And for that, I'm going to use my small Festool Rotex sander, which is perfect for this operation. Got the components laid out for the doors. Now the doors themselves are going to be 3/4 inch plywood with dug fir strips, and this isn't fine cabinetry, so all I'm going to do is biscuit join the rails and stiles to this. I'm just going to square that up. I want to make a couple 3 marks. Again, it's primarily for alignment. Very little strength. So I've got all the biscuits cut for my rails and stiles and the door panel itself. I've got my clamping scheme ready, which is pretty simple, and just a matter of putting all this together with some glue. While the door is dry, I'm just going to put the back on. I've already cut it to size. Just going to run a bead of glue along each edge. If I open that up, next thing I want to do is I want to put some levelers in. These are pretty simple. I'm just going to drill a 3/8 inch hole. I want to make sure that I don't hit this pocket screw, and drill that in. Tap the T-nut in. Put some stainless steel bolts in here. This will keep it up off the floor in case any water gets on the floor. It won't go underneath the cabinet. It also gives me an ability to level these once it's set in place. Well, I've got the doors out of the clamps, and the panels are pretty true to the rails and stiles. There's still some slight inconsistencies. You know, it's big box plywood. I'm just going to go over this real quick with 120 sandpaper, my random marble sander, and this should make pretty quick work of getting this, you know, a couple little spots, getting it flat. So now I've got the rails and the stiles sanded flush to the plywood panels. I'm going to cut a 3/8 inch rabbet on all 4 sides of this door. And again, there's a 3/8 inch overlay, and those are the hinges I have. So finished cabinet, well, minus the coat of paint, that is. Came out pretty nice, pretty easy project, just took a little bit of time. Doors swing out nice and wide. I've got 3 adjustable shelves that'll go in here to handle some of the bigger tools that'll go in. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Once I get it painted and I get the tools in, I'll give one last final shot at that up against my lumber rack. Well, there's the finished cabinet in its spot, and all painted, and you can see it matches the rest of all my other shop furniture, which of course to my wife is very important. I can get to this stuff pretty easy. Again, everything is on a mobile base, which is pretty nice. So all I have to do is move my drill press out of the way a little bit. Open these doors and I can get to everything in the cabinet pretty easy. It's still some clutter, but at least it's better than it was, which was just a shelf underneath my lumber rack. Got 3 adjustable shelves in there, and again, it's pretty full. I thought I'd have some extra room, but I guess not. Overall, though, I'm pretty happy with the way all this stuff worked out, especially with the lumber rack and the cabinet. Made the cabinet in a weekend. Using a lot of the Festool stuff to cut the closet down and get that going.